move, move, and move. um,
Growing a Healthy Child, where we help busy parents grow healthy kids with less stress and more joy.
Well, hello there, and welcome to the Growing a Healthy Child podcast. And we are so glad you're here. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Dale Barzey-Pond.
Thank you.
Dale is somebody I met. Oh, I met this lady online. She's, one of the marvelous serendipitous type meetings that have occurred online over the last several years as a result of everybody being online, like because of COVID and all that fun stuff. She is a registered nurse. She started out her career as a midwife some years back and ended her career, because she is now gracefully retired. She ended her career in geriatrics. So she has literally spanned the human gamut for healthcare. And she is going to talk with us today about what it's like to be a grandparent and how you support your grandchildren in staying as healthy as you can. Mm-hmm. So we are so honored and grateful to have Dale here today.
Yeah, welcome.
Well, thank you, Mara. Thank you, Carrie. I am excited to be on your podcast. This is a little bit of a different subject for me. As you mentioned, I'm talking to nurses. So speaking about my grandchildren is a huge thing for me. About being a grandparent, actually, is a huge thing for me. As you said, I'm a nurse, a midwife, have practiced midwifery in a long time. I'm a registered nurse. I am an author, a YouTuber, a mother of three, grandmother of three. I grew up in the Caribbean. I grew up on this tiny, tiny island, 39 square miles, Montserrat. And I have to tell you that growing up on Montserrat, I had no idea that I was growing up in a really great place. I just thought everybody grew up in a great place. I wish. Had to leave Montserrat to find that out. I had to leave, but so yes, 39 square mile island. Left to go to the United Kingdom to go to nursing school and midwifery school. And so I've been fortunate in that I got to work in the United Kingdom. I went back to Montserrat for a while, so I've worked in Montserrat and I've worked in the United States. So I'm a mixture of all of those things.
Yeah, and you're currently in Connecticut, you said, right?
I'm currently in Connecticut, yes. Connecticut,
yeah. So what I didn't say, I'm sorry, I left this out. Dale has her own podcast that she hosts called Nurses Talking. That's how we met. She invited me onto her podcast and we talked about nurse things and entrepreneurial things and nonprofit leadership things. And so that's how that started. That's how we met. So we have a pile of questions for you. Or can we jump right in?
Jump right in.
Okay. All right. Now, Dale and I have had the chance to talk over time, right? So some of this is I'm just going to be pulling from conversations we've had in the past. I don't want you to get the impression that this is the first time we're talking, right? Okay, so you have grandchildren. How many grandchildren do you have?
I have three. I have a 10-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. So the 10-year-old is my only granddaughter. The two boys are a bit rough and tumble.
Do they live nearby you?
Which is actually quite different.
Say something about that. What do you mean it's quite different?
Well, as I said, the boys are 1 and 4, or 4 and 1. The girl is a 10-year-old. She's becoming quite a young lady. So, the relationship now with the granddaughter is that, we're both female, we're both girls. And I still have the little kid relationship with the grandsons. So it's a little different. Our conversations, for example, conversations with my granddaughter are becoming a little more adult, but becoming a little more toward the adults, level, and she's thinking about, and she's quite, I know that I'm biased, but it's not biased if it's true. She's quite a brilliant young lady. So, so she tends to think ahead of her years, which is something I'm quite enjoying. Yeah.
So it helps that you see her that way.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you didn't see her that way, she wouldn't show up that way, and it just would be a totally different relationship, right? So kudos to you.
Yeah.
That you even see her as an individual and brilliant, and
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I think that perhaps some of that came from my relationship with my own grandmother. I considered myself very fortunate because I still think of my grandmother as probably the most intelligent female I ever met. I had no idea at the time that she was so far ahead of her time in her thinking until I met other people and realized how often I would think of or say, "Oh, my grandmother told me that a long time ago." Okay, not every, but I think some of that came from I was her first grandchild.
Okay.
And spoiled, yes, that's true. But
Yeah.
I think some of that comes from my relationship with her.
How do you try to instill in your grandchildren what you've learned about health and self-care over your lifetime?
Okay. Well, I think that first and foremost, they have to see me do it. They have to see me take care of myself. And they have to see me not just do it, but acknowledge that I'm doing it. So that they realize it's an intentional thing. So for example, something as simple as probably brushing your teeth, for example, is something that we do in the bathroom together. They can come in the bathroom and we can brush it, or even if they're brushing their teeth, because sometimes, if they hear overnight or something, and I may or may not get up before them. But when it's time to brush teeth, even if I have brushed my teeth already, we go in and we're all brushing teeth together, and we're all talking about why we brushed our teeth and why is it a good thing, and all of those kinds of things. So that they get to know that it is, and taking care of yourself is not just something that, you do if you remember, but you have to be a part of the equation. You have to be, if you're not taking care of yourself, if I'm not taking care of myself, I cannot take care of them.
Yeah.
And so they have to know that they have to take care of themselves. And it is, I can see it. I can see it happening. I can see them assimilating that. I know that their parents do the same, but they're not, when they come to my house, they're not forgetting to do it, and they're not doing it just because. They're doing it because they understand the need to do it. And it's not a chore. It becomes a, part of who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
I think about my relationship with my grandparents was not at all like what you're describing. There was I don't know, maybe it's a different era, I don't know. And my grandparents were all on the East Coast, like New York, New Jersey area. So very different. It was more that adult to child thing, make sure you do this. And, I just didn't have that kind of closeness. So really, really great. I applaud that also.
Yeah.
I
think it's important to let, to have kids have that relationship with their grandparents. And like you were saying earlier, let them teach you something. Yes. And then when you're doing something as simple as like brushing your teeth, show them the value in it and make it fun. And, the things that you do to improve your health or to stay healthy, they don't become routine and I have to do this, or I'm being told to do that. They see
Exactly.
the value and they do it themselves, and they want to do it because it's fun. And it's
Exactly. Exactly. And even some things that you do that are not the thing you want to do. For example, we started, my daughters and I have started, both of my daughters are big water drinkers. But that didn't just happen. I myself, I drink water, but not as much as they do. And I don't have two things I don't have. Is one of them is patience, right? And so we're on this thing that one of the ways I'm going to do, A, increase my hydration, and B, work on my patience, is every time I begin to feel impatient about something, I'm going to drink water instead. I'm going to take that time to have some water. Now, this is something that I said with my granddaughter the other day when she was here. She's like, do that too. Right? So now we're on the same, hydration kick. Just because, we all get to think about it, right? For me, it's like killing two birds with one stone, working on patience. If after all of this time I still don't have the patience, I don't know if I'm ever going to get it, but I'm working on it, and working on it generationally.
Yeah, which is really beautiful. That is beautiful to make that part of your legacy, right? Yeah, so beautiful. I remember some years ago, I was on a retreat with Thich Nhat Hanh's community. And for those who don't know, Thich Nhat Hanh passed away not too awful long ago, but he was a very well-respected, well-loved Zen Buddhist monk who probably, by anybody's estimation, had attained Buddha nature in his lifetime, this time. And in the retreat, as we would, you're driving across country to get to this retreat. I think I drove from here to Massachusetts one of the times, right? You're driving, and driving is a stressful thing to do, right? So you arrive at the retreat and you unpack your bags and you're trying to run inside so you can get registered and get it all done. And that is totally so not Buddhist, so not Zen, so not Zen, right? And one of the first things you see when you walk in to register is there's a line of people in front of you, right? Everybody's gotten there around about the same time, and it's all lined up, and everybody's got their, backpacks or whatever, and you're just like ready to scream already. Oh my God, I'm like standing in line, and there's a sign up where you can see it. It says, "While you're waiting, please enjoy your breathing."
Oh,
your breathing.
Enjoy your breathing. And it just, I'll never forget that. It kind of like took me aback, almost took my breath away for a second, like, oh yeah, I'm on a retreat now. It starts already. So to be able to give your granddaughter that, long story to say, to be able to give your granddaughter that gift of, okay, sit with your impatience. Around your impatience, right? That's a pretty powerful gift to be able to give the next generation or so down. Really good.
And all of that has to do with health and well-being, because very often when we think of health and well-being, we do think of things like food and exercise and stuff like that. And all of those things are extremely important. But there are some things that we don't think of, as you mentioned, the breathing. And breathing has become a big thing for me too. But just taking a breath, and connecting it to something else. Okay, let this go, breathe it out.
Right.
Let it go.
So one of the times you and I were talking, you were telling me about growing up on Montserrat. And please, first of all, give our audience a sense of where Montserrat is, because it's not a name you hear about very often. And
Montserrat is very definitely.
I'll ask you more of it.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Mara. What were you saying?
No, then I'll ask you the rest. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, Montserrat is very definitely not a place you hear of very often. And that's because A, as I said, it's very small. Two, it's really not the easiest place to get to anymore. But it's in the Caribbean. It's in about the middle of the chain of islands. So you have Cuba, Jamaica, and all at the top, all the way down to Trinidad. I think everyone has heard of Antigua. So we are 27 miles away from Antigua. So to get to Montserrat, you would take a flight into Antigua. There's an international airport in Antigua. And then you would take a small plane and hop over to Montserrat. It's a 15-minute flight.
Okay.
It's a 15-minute flight. I will get into Montserrat has changed quite a lot in the last 25 years or so, not just because of other outside influences, but because of natural disasters. Montserrat has an active volcano. It wasn't always active. For unknown times, it was just dormant. And in the mid-1990s, it decided to erupt. And it is the type of volcano like that Mount St. Helens type of volcano, not the Hawaii types of volcano with the running lava. It's the pyroclastic flow type of volcano. So it started erupting in 1995. Many people had to be evacuated, and in that time, it's still active, but not as active as it was in the mid 1990s up to maybe 2000. But in that time, 2/3 of the island became in a danger zone. So we lost 2/3 of the island, and we lost 2/3 of the population because Montserrat is a British overseas territory. And so many of the people who lived in the east and south of the island migrated to England because they just lost everything. Everything was gone. So now the population is greatly reduced. And so it's trying to come back. But that's an uphill battle because whereas prior to the volcanic eruption there was a population of about 15,000. Now we have a population of almost 5,000.
Wow.
So that's an uphill climb.
Right. So you were telling me when you were growing up that there were Montserrat was a very different place. Let's start with that, right? So how was it? What was it like when you were growing up, and how has it changed? How is it now?
So growing up, it was, so first of all, let's talk about food. I don't ever remember anybody using the word organic, but the food was. Food was locally grown, so everything was locally grown. The vegetables were locally grown. The meat was locally raised. Everyone had chickens, or they had goats and cattle, and the cattle was killed at the abattoir, and you'd go there to get it. It was not frozen. You'd go and get it when it's freshly killed. Fish was fresh. You bought it as it came out of the sea. As a matter of fact, you'd meet the fishermen on the beach. There was a lot of outdoor activity. Children definitely played outdoors all the time. There was a lot of walking. And Montserrat, for example, is a very hilly place. If you're walking, you're either going uphill or you're going downhill. There's very few places where you're walking on a level. So you had that kind of exercise going. And it really was a village that raised children. Everybody knew everybody else's children, and what you did not say or do in front of your parents, you certainly did not say or do in front of Miss Anne down the road, right? So in those instances, it was a very kind of carefree place to live and to grow up. And people believed in, I don't know if they actually used the word detoxifying, but that is what they did, in fact. They used a lot of herbal stuff. For example, during the summer holidays, as children, we ate a lot of fruit. That's when fruits are in abundance, and we ate a lot of fruit. And, parents and grandparents just let you eat as much of it as you want. However, trying to go back to school, you were going to get a laxative because you had to clean out all of that stuff that you were doing over the vacation, right? And they use a lot of stuff like, I don't know if you've heard of Cersei. I use Cersei because it's okay, I'll tell you, it's family too. It's, if you know the bitter melon.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So it's in that family. And I said Cersei because I know that's what they call it in Jamaica, and that's what most people know it as. We call it something else in Montserrat, but they use a lot of that because anecdotally, it was supposed to help to clean the system out, get rid of the toxins and stuff like that. Still use it today. So I'm saying all of that to say that for most people, it was a pretty healthy life. It was a pretty healthy lifestyle. Just because there were no factories spewing toxins in the air. So the air you were breathing was fresh. The food you were eating was fresh. You had a lot of exercise. You ran around, you played, you formed bonds, you formed community bonds, right? Because as I said, everybody knew everybody else. You had your community bonds. So you were safe internally and externally.
Are you a parent or caregiver who is unhappy about how your child eats at home?
Wouldn't it be great if you were part of an active, well-informed, supportive community where you could work to transform how we feed our kids so we could make a difference for them and for the planet as a whole?
Well, you can. That community actually exists.
It's a thing.
It is. Join us and get involved. Become a member of Plant-Based Nutrition Movement. There's no cost to join. Join the 6 Million Seeds Coalition and launch a 6 Million Seeds project in your area. Contact us at 6mseeds@pbnm.org.
We want you there. Yeah. So now, given that things have changed and you have different influences, you have the TV and you got more cars and, in effect, in reality, you have a smaller island, right?
You do?
With different influences. So what is it like now? Are people living to 90 in their 90s, or they have the same sets of illnesses like we have here, or how is it changing?
I think that from what I can see, we're beginning to see the creeping in of the same kinds of illnesses that you are seeing. People still living, the older people are still there, still living. My mother-in-law, for example, died 5 years ago. She was 109.
Wow.
And very much, with it. There are a few centenarians still, but I'm beginning to hear and to see that we're getting those same kinds of conditions and diseases creeping in because, again, as I say, we're now getting around more by car. And we're also seeing more of not so fresh foods. I forgot the word I was looking for. Processed. There you go.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that creep in, which is affecting stuff. Plus, also, I do believe that you cannot go through the kind of trauma that people went through well, even if none of these other things happen, you cannot go through that kind of trauma without it having some effect on people's outlook and their resiliency and stuff like that, and on their health.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were saying, I got to go back to the volcano part.
Sure.
Okay, so you said it was more like a Mount St. Helens type of volcano than a Hawaii type of volcano. So it gave off a lot of ash.
A lot of ash. Ash would. I don't know if you can visualize this, but ash, it would spew ash thousands of feet into the air. And very often, a lot of it would come down on Montserrat, but very often flights in that area would have to be canceled or rerouted because it would be up so high. And ash would go up, spread out, and come down. So ash would come down in other islands. Ash has come down as far south as Colombia, South America, from that volcano. So it will go thousands of feet up into the air, spread out, and come down. So, very often, especially in the early days, people had to walk around wearing masks. Or, there was one particular eruption where pebbles, so many people lost the windshields from their cars and stuff like that because pebbles came down and just, smashed into everything. We would have to sweep away mounds and mounds of ash. I don't even know any way to describe it to you, because typically when you hear about volcanoes, you're thinking of the lava running down, right? In the red lava. It's not that. It's throwing up mounds and mounds and mounds of ash. The people tend to refer to the capital, Plymouth. Plymouth was the capital, and people refer to Plymouth as the modern day Pompeii, because the city is buried.
So in your life as a nurse covering both ends of the spectrum of human lifespan, what would be something that you have seen that you would say, maybe there's 3 things you would encourage people to do to either support, improve their health?
Move, and move. No, really. For me, that really is one of the biggest things. You've got to move. And I know that not everybody can move in the same way, but if your body's not moving, it's hard for your brain to move. It's hard for your thoughts to move away from one little area. And so for me, one of the big things is moving all the time. Eat well, eat as well as you can, and stay hydrated, and by all means, think positively.
Yeah.
It's never too late to start eating healthy. It's never too late to give up processed foods or, the horrible carcinogens and saturated fats in the diet. It's never too late. And giving your body that chance to recover just by removing the insulting foods, right?
Yeah.
People do amazingly well at 84 and 85 years old.
Yeah, you can see benefit in so many ways.
Yeah. And you say that, and I imagine that when people at that age, I hear me saying that age, I'm almost there. Anyway. But when people at that age change their eating habits, you've got to give them kudos, because that's not an easy thing. If all your life you've been even if you did not indulge in quote unquote unhealthy eating, the food pyramid that you grew up with was a different kind of pyramid than you're expecting to, right? Yeah. So for you to change that mindset, for you to change that, this is what is the thing, is huge after you get to a certain age. So kudos.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's huge. I used to tell my children as they were growing up, please take it easy. I am not ready to be a grandparent. Hold off, take your time. And then I had I got the granddaughter, and all of the three children are my son's children. And so I would say, okay, so when's the next grandchild? I mean, what are we waiting for? But grandchildren do change your life. Just as children change your life. Children change your life in one way. Grandchildren change your life also. And your perspective becomes different. You have a different perspective because, I guess, just because you are not ultimately responsible for their upbringing, you can be a little bit more free, and to create a relationship with your grandchild that is, as I said before, that is totally between the two of you and has nothing to do with the person in between you, is, to me, awesome. It's awesome because, every now and then they would just call me, because they wanted to call me, not because daddy said they had to call me, but because they wanted to call me. Huge. That's huge. Yeah. And be open to learning. They have lots to teach us.
Yeah. So beautiful. Yeah. I'm going to do that. When I have grandchildren, that's what I'll do. And I'm like, please don't. I'm not saying I want them now. Please don't rush. Only have grandchildren. Only have babies when you're ready to have babies. I don't need to have
when you're ready to have babies. That's yeah. But it's huge.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I love
great
that.
advice. Great advice. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that about wraps up our talk with Dale Barzey-Pond today.
Yeah.
Dale, how can our audience get a hold of you or find you or follow you if they were interested in tracking you down?
So I am on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel called Nurses Talking. I can be reached at nursestalking@gmail.com. And I'm learning to be on Instagram. So also there, Nurses Talking.
Good for you.
So, I'm trying stuff,
Good.
Keep going. Great.
Keep going. I struggle with Instagram. So.
Yeah.
Right? I thought it was so easy. No, it's not.
I'm sure it is. Maybe I just
am determined to get there. I'm determined to get there. So.
Well, I'll call you up for a tutorial someday. Let me know when you get there.
All right.
All right. Well, that wraps it up, I think.
Well, thank you so much. It was such an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. And we will talk to you soon, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Take care, guys.
All right. Bye-bye, Dan.
Bye.